Welcome to another edition of the Air It Out Podcast presented by Inside the Hashes. My name is Juan Pablo Guarin Camargo, and I am joined on a call filled with football experts. I got Darius Riddick, I got Darren Braxton, I got Avery Collins, Jerome Jones behind the virtual glass. What is up, everybody?
Yo, what's good?
Yeah. Derrick Henry for Secretary of Defense.
Ooh, you stacked far.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Ooh.
He gonna be stiff forming nukes. Like, nah, get out of here.
For those of you joining us, Avery is just referencing the monster of a stiff arm that Titans running back Derrick Henry inflicted onto Bills cornerback Foreman. And, it does bring glimpses back of when he did the very same thing to former Ravens safety Earl Thomas in the 2020
No. That, what he did to Josh Norman was 10 times worse than what he did to Earl Thomas. Earl Thomas might have been a lead block at that point. But Josh Norman became a JV high school player.
Listen, I have to disagree for two reasons.
Josh Norman became a JV high school player. Man.
I gotta disagree for two reasons. I think Earl is worse for two reasons. Number one, Josh Norman is light in the behind. It's kind of expected he plays corner. And Earl Thomas is like he's considered a safety who comes down and hits people, not a big, huge hitter, but he comes down and hits and yada yada yada. Number two, to your point, he turned him into a lead blocker. It's not like Earl was like, I'm gonna just play around. He turned him into a lead blocker. Like, he stiff armed him twice. That was just
he stiffed on him.
Sir, but when you take a grown man and push him to the side as though he was a rag doll, a JV squad high school player, and he was a former all-pro corner. Come on, man.
He stiffed on
one time. The one-time former All-Pro corner, Josh Norman, I will say definitively now is a washed-up corner who had one good season and made it the most of it when he signed with the Washington football team.
Two good seasons.
Let's say the same. All right.
Thank you.
Guys, let me ask you. It is Thursday night. There is no Thursday night football. Guys, there's no Thursday night football tonight because of COVID restrictions having to push back the Broncos and the Patriots game into a Monday night matinee. So, guys, before we get into the rundown today, I kind of just want to know, does it feel weird not having a Thursday night football game to look forward to?
Yes,
absolutely.
I'll give it to Avery first because I know he's the most mad about it.
Yeah. It's frustrating because of the fact that I love football. Now, granted, I'm happy that we got some Tuesday night football, which was kind of cool. I'm not going to lie. I was like, this Tuesday night, and I get to watch some NFL football. That was pretty dope. I think the NFL should kind of look into that. But anyway, an
18-game season coming down the schedule, it might not be out of the loop.
Listen, man, and I love Thursday night football. They tend to be some of the best matchups. Simply because of the fact that everybody knows this is the only game on. And you, for example, you get teams like who are potentially scrub teams that play on Thursday night and they end up being great games. Like when we saw Jacksonville versus it was Minshew versus, say it again.
No, it was not the Broncos. I thought it was the Broncos.
It was two teams that the Dolphins. Jackson, that was a Thursday night game. I was like, man, this is a good game, man. And it's games like that. They just turn out to be good games because everybody's like, we're tuning in, and so the players know everybody's kind of watching this right now. So I love Thursday night football. I'm upset that we don't get to see it, especially with Cam coming back, man.
Well, Cam coming back is going to actually part of what we're going to be talking about in a bit. So I guess that leads me to my transition into the rundown. And the first thing we're going to start doing here today is we begin with some clearing up. Clearing up of a rumor on behalf of Bengals wide receiver AJ Green. The 32-year-old wideout made it clear today that the video of him on the sideline where it looks like he's saying "trade me" is inaccurate. When asked about whether he wants to be in Cincinnati, Green said, "Yes, of course. I think we're building something here." In 2020, Green has caught 14 catches on 34 targets for 119 yards, no touchdowns. So far, the question isn't whether AJ Green wants to be in Cincinnati. It's whether or not Cincinnati wants AJ Green to be a Bengal going forward. Next up on our rundown for today, it is getting tough to be a Falcons fan, guys. My shout out to you, Avery. In the same week that that head coach Dan Quinn and general manager Tommy DeMittio were relieved of duty, a report came out that the team's facilities have been closed following a COVID test from an assistant coach turning up positive. The situation had forced the Falcons to hold virtual meetings on Thursday. The hope is that the facility will be back open on Friday, barring any setbacks. In the same week, the Falcons also put rookie defensive lineman Marlon Davidson on the reserve/COVID list on Tuesday. They're hoping that it was a false positive. Details not yet coming up. The Patriots are getting two of their top playmakers back at the right time on Wednesday and Thursday, respectively. Both quarterback Cam Newton and cornerback Stephon Gilmore reported back to practice for New England after both were placed on the COVID-19 list. Newton tested positive for the coronavirus prior to the Week 4 game against the Chiefs and didn't travel with the team, while Gilmore tested positive a day later after said Chiefs game. Browns wide receiver Odell Beckham Jr. was sent home with an illness on Thursday, according to head coach Kevin Stefanski. The Browns wideout was, quote, feeling under the weather, and he was sent home out of an abundance of caution. Odell's status for the Browns game against the Steelers on Sunday is now in question. And finally, to end it here, the biggest news of the week, probably even not speaking as a Jets fan, objectively as an NFL fan, after just 17 games with the New York Jets, running back Le'Veon Bell has been released from gangrene, nulling his guaranteed salary of $8 million for the 2021 season. In less than 2 years with New York, Bell has amassed an egregious 863 rushing yards, 3 touchdowns, no 100-yard games, and the longest running attempt of his Jets career went for 19 yards. So far, rumor mills have say Le'Veon has narrowed down his signing options to Miami and Kansas City, with both teams set to play the Jets in Week 6 with Miami and Week 8. and that will conclude today's rundown. Okay, guys, all of that. So much to break down, so much to get through, but I'm going to throw it to Darius first, man. You being a Patriots fan, you love seeing Cam back in the lineup. You've been preaching Cam for MVP this whole season. Plus, you got your reigning defensive player of the year and the Stephon Gilmore coming back, and you're playing against the Broncos. If they lose against the Broncos, it's the first 2-3 season since 2001 during the 6th Super Bowl run. Do you think it's possible that New England could lose?
No, and I'm gonna try to be unbiased as I can. I think getting Stephon Gilmore back obviously is a huge plus, and I think getting Cam Newton back is a bigger plus because we saw against Kansas City what the quarterback situation was. Right, Brian Hoyer struggled, and it was he showed flashes obviously, but he turned the ball over, and you can tell that the system, the offense really wasn't. They really didn't have enough time to game plan. And I think, if we had Cam Newton in that game, obviously we win that game. You look at the defense standpoint, we really shut down Patrick Mahomes for the most part. He really wasn't the Patrick Mahomes that we really saw. Tyreek Hill wasn't really much of a factor. Travis Kelce really wasn't much of a factor. What really kept them in that game, Kansas City, and I think we all can agree, is the defense. So I think you bring back a guy in Cam Newton who we know how dynamic he is. He can run the ball. He's shown that he can pass the ball. And you put him in a Josh McDaniels system against a Denver Broncos defense who isn't the Denver Broncos defense that we're used to seeing. They don't have Von Miller. So that's a huge difference for them. They obviously still have Nick Chubb, but they're not getting that much pressure like they used to with Von Miller. And I think getting Stephon Gilmore back, obviously, man, that's a huge plus too. And I think it's not a big, difference because I think we have enough guys. J.C. Jackson, obviously, I think he's emerging as one of the top corners in the league. You add in Jonathan Jones, a good slot corner, and Jason McCourty. You have some type of depth at that position. But getting Stephon Gilmore back is huge, and I'm actually glad that we're getting both players back at the ideal time, and we're home. So I think that's a huge plus.
And with the return of Cam Newton and Stephon Gilmore gives the Patriots a much higher chance of possibly qualifying for a playoff spot. But we'll move to the other side of the playoff spectrum. Those who are no, without a shred of a doubt, out of the playoff picture in Cincinnati. Darren, I have to ask, man, like, AJ Green, 32 years old, history of injury. What are his chances that the Bengals even keep him going forward into the 2021 season?
I think it's still highly likely that he stays. You gotta understand, AJ Green's been around for a while. He's been very dominant for a while until an injury hit. And I think he just needs a little bit more time to gel with Burrow. As Burrow is being able to spread the ball around to multiple targets right now. He just needs to gel with one particular one, and in particular, AJ Green. When you get him involved, it will open it up for the guys like Tyler Boyd, the John Rosses, and T. Higgins now that he's starting to come on a little bit here and there. I really think that the comment was not trade me. I think it was more of what he stated, more of a frustration. Because as a team that's currently 1-3-1 or 1-4-1, you're going to be frustrated, especially in games when you have chances to win those games. Against the Eagles, they had a chance to win. Against the Chargers, they had a chance to win. So it's not like they're completely out of this. So I understand his frustration. And you can tell it's more just frustration because when Burrow threw a pick to Marcus Peters in his last game, AJ did not even attempt to tackle him. He basically looked at him and let him run. So that's more frustration to me than anything else. And I think once they start to click with him and Burrow, I think they'll see the value in having AJ Green pass this year.
AJ Green certainly a crowded wide receiver room out in Cincinnati with the emergence of T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd. I forget number 19 that they have there. It escapes my mind.
Ogden Tate, I believe.
Ogden Tate. Like it's quite an underrated receiver core up in Cincinnati. But now we're going to move to a receiving core that is lacking in names in significant nature, the New York Jets. But Avery, I want to ask you. The Bengals were smart. They would have got rid of Green years ago before the injuries piled up. Very true, Chris. Very true. But, things don't work out like that. And having a veteran presence really helps develop future stars. But Avery, back to my question. I want to focus less on the Jets because they are a franchise on the down low. I want to focus more on the prospects of Le'Veon Bell. People say he was washed up. He doesn't have the explosiveness that he had when he was in Pittsburgh, that the year he took off was not worth it whatsoever. Let's say he goes to either Miami or the Chiefs. Where do you see is as his best case scenario for breaking out as a star again?
Well, first things first, AJ Green was taking the correct angle to tackle Marcus Peters. We watched the film. Let's stop saying that he was not trying to tackle Marcus Peters. He was trying to get the angle. That's what we do as receivers. We're not, our focus is angle. So as far as Le'Veon Bell, I just feel like a couple things. Number one, Adam Gase is trash. I don't understand how he's not fired before Le'Veon got let go. An interesting stat here. Deontay Daniels, a friend of mine, posted something in our chat. If you're not following us, go to the Inside the Football chat on Facebook and follow on Discord as well. But he said they keep saying stuff like in 2 seasons he never rushed for 100 yards. So he said, here's some knowledge for you. Since 2018, meaning back with the Dolphins, only 2 players, 1 time each, have rushed for 100 yards in the Adam Gase offense. That means in 3 seasons, Adam Gase's running game has rushed for over 100 yards 2 times in 37 games. And we're saying that it's Le'Veon Bell's fault. Le'Veon Bell had 1 catch last game, and we're saying it's Le'Veon Bell's fault. We're talking about arguably the best receiving running back probably in the history of football, and he has 1 catch, and it's Le'Veon Bell's fault. Miss me with that. I mean, you saw the way he was running the last game when he came back after injury. It looked like he didn't have the injury at all, if we're going to be honest. And as a running back, to have a hamstring injury, that's not a position that you want to have a hamstring injury. I mean, for me, it's not Le'Veon Bell. It's Adam Gase. It's that system. It's the offensive line. The fact that Sam Darnold can't stay in the pocket because he wants to. The offensive line is just not good enough. But that's beside the point. To answer your question, I think the best fit obviously is the Chiefs if he wants to win. If he wants to win now, the best fit is the Chiefs. The Chiefs know how to get the ball to the running backs out of the backfield. We see it with Clyde Edwards-Helaire. We obviously saw it last year with Damian Williams. So there's a high potential for him to get a volume of touches. He could be another Kareem Hunt type guy, but better for that offense and different things like that. So I think that would be the best fit if he wants to win now. I think if another good fit would definitely be Buffalo.
Buffalo's no longer in contention, they said.
They're no longer in contention. Okay, so the last thing I heard was that his last 3 teams were those. Well, so I'll speak to Miami. I think Buffalo would be a great landing spot for him, though. But for Miami, obviously they need a running game, right? They can't just keep dropping back and thinking that Ryan Fitzpatrick is just going to tear up the league. It's just not going to happen that way. You've got to be able to close games out. I believe Miami should have at least one more win on their record, but because their running game is just it's non-existent, they're not able to close games out. So I think that Miami would be a great fit for him to be the starter, for him to get a lot of touches, for him to continue to get paid. Miami is a great place to live, but if he wants to win, it's Kansas City.
For Chris Thomas just commented, that Miami, he'll be the number 1 back. He makes a good point. I mean, the only 2 top running backs that are down in Miami are Matt Breida, who had a great career with the 49ers and thought that would translate well down in South Florida. Hasn't been the case. And Myles Gaskin, who was a breakout star against the Jaguars, but has been silent ever since. But with that being said, we move off from the running back position to the quarterback position, guys, and we're going to be now debating one of the most highly touted debates in every sports talk show, but we might as well throw our stuff into the water. Who is the best quarterback in the NFL right now? And I did a breakdown on the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 quarterbacks that I believe are in the top 5 at the very least. I have it. It's not in any sort of order, but I'll give it to you anyways. It's Russell Wilson, Patrick Mahomes, Aaron Rodgers, Josh Allen, and Dak Prescott. And that was before Prescott went down with an injury, but I still stand by my conviction. So I'll give you guys free reign here. I want to start off with Darren first. Who is the best quarterback in the NFL for 2020?
This is always a loaded question, man. Always a loaded question. Currently, though, I really would like to say it's a tie almost. Currently. Russell Wilson and Aaron Rodgers. Sorry. Lamar is not doing it right now, quarterback. He's struggling a little bit. It's okay. He has those times. But when it comes to the best right now, yeah, that man right there, you got to understand, both of these guys are bad guys, man. When they get the ball in their hand, it's magical. Magical. The things they can do, the way they can extend the play, and you got to understand, the touchdown interception ratio with these two are always incredibly low. They take care of the ball. They don't fumble it. They know what to do, and they put their teams in the best position to win. And let's just go off of Russell Wilson. That last game, him and DK is on another level. You have to understand the trust that he has to be able to toss the ball up like that and know his guys are going to be there. You have to be one of the best to be able to understand and know that you can do that and be fine. The same with Aaron Rodgers. It's just ridiculous what they can do.
And if you had to pick one, if you had to narrow between the two.
All right, if I had to pick one, I'm going Russ right now. If I had to pick one, I'm going Russ. I'm sorry, that's my man.
Now, Darren going Wilson. I'm going to throw it over to now Darius, who he's been preaching Cam for MVP, but Cam couldn't make the cut, for me at least. Who do you think is the best quarterback in the NFL, Darius?
Cam going to make it towards the end of the season, but I'm gonna go with Aaron Rodgers, and I think the reason why, just because you got to look at what Aaron Rodgers really has.
Love the list. Yeah.
You look at Aaron Rodgers. This is a guy like Avery Darren said, doesn't turn the ball over. And both quarterbacks make it look easy. Like that last drive from Russ last Sunday against Minnesota. Like we said, when the lights are on, it's Sunday Night Football, and Russ knows everyone's watching. He's gonna deliver, and it's the same with Aaron Rodgers. But Aaron Rodgers doesn't have, he didn't have Devontae Adams for 2 weeks, and he's still making guys out there. He's making no-name tight ends look like guys you can add to your fantasy lineup and they can produce towards the end of the season. Aaron Rodgers is a bad man, and you have to think the controversy that he's had coming into this season with Green Bay drafting a quarterback in the first round. People were saying this is a guy who's going down on the cliff, right? Like Jordan Love is going to be the guy who's going to take over, and Aaron Rodgers. You know, we look back at the way he said on the Pat McAfee show, like this is not a down year for him. This is like I think one of his best years, and he doesn't have that much around him. You know, Russ has DK, Tyler Lockett, Chris Carter. You know what I mean? He has weapons. You know, Rodgers only really has Devontae Adams, and he's getting guys like that. He's getting other guys like Aaron Jones and Jamal Williams and different guys like that stepping up now. But I definitely think it's Aaron Rodgers, and I don't think he's going to take a decline as the season goes. I think he's going to get better each and every week. You're going to see Aaron Rodgers do something spectacular like he was when he first started to come in the league. So I think
so far he's been missing quite a few weapons, to Darius's credit. No Devontae Adams, go to Marquez Valdes-Scantling. Marquez Valdes-Scantling not doing that well. Find Allen Lazard. Allen Lazard gets injured. Give an unknown tight end in Robert Tonyan, you know, a career night on primetime against the Falcons. Speaking of, Avery, who is your top quarterback in the NFL?
The answer is clear, ladies and gentlemen. It's Patrick. I'm kidding. It's definitely Aaron. No, it's not him. It's Russell Wilson. It is Russell Wilson, ladies and gentlemen. And here's the reason why. I love Aaron Rodgers, and I stand by the fact that I think he's the most talented, even outside of Patrick Mahomes. I think he's the most talented quarterback I've ever seen play the game of football. And I think he's one of the best quarterbacks to ever play the game of football. I think he's one of the best quarterbacks in the league right now, currently, since he's been, you know, whatever. The reason I'm going with Russell is because of the fact that there's one factor that he has that I just don't see from other quarterbacks. And Darius mentioned it. When those lights go on and the game is on the line, I don't think there's another quarterback in the league that I want other than Russell Wilson. Aaron Rodgers would be number 2. Patrick Mahomes might be number, 2B. But when it comes down to it, if I need a drive, I want Russ. And that right there is what separates it for me. I mean, we see the accuracy, we see the arm strength, we see the trust that he has in his receivers, we see the playmaking ability with his legs. He can do everything. We see the checks at the line. We see all of those things, but it's just like you're sitting there and you're watching. It's like this is going to be the time where Russ can't do it. This is the time that they figure Russ out, and they just don't do it.
Take it into consideration too, guys, Avery especially, that Wilson plays on a team that has the 32nd ranked defense in the whole league. Seattle defense ranked 32nd, and they're 32nd in yards allowed in total. They're 32nd in the passing game, 370 per game. There's 6th in rushing yards allowed, but it's still 100 yards per game. They're 19 in points allowed, which is 27, nearly 4 touchdowns to the opposing team. That's enough to cost anyone a game. And Seattle's defense has been on the decline. I'm counting back since 2018, 11th overall in 2018, and 22nd overall in 2019. And to think that Russell Wilson's having an MVP year, playing with and against his own defense, it's something that is like of MVP caliber. Is it worthy of being the number 1 quarterback? Maybe, probably. The season's still young. We still have a lot of football to cover before we go forward, which brings us back down to our second topic of the day, which is one quarterback that was on this list, but we unfortunately can't count him in it anymore, Mr. Dak Prescott. Dak Prescott has suffered a career-ending injury, season-ending injury on Sunday against the New York Giants, a compound fracture in his right ankle. What that means, bone protruding from the skin and having to be put back in through surgery and out indefinitely. A similar injury that Alex Smith suffered back in 2018, which coincidentally he came back on the field the same day that Dak got injured. But that's not what we're here to talk about. Dak was playing on the franchise tag. He given $31 million to play on that deal. Reason why he was on the franchise tag, he was trying to negotiate a long-term deal with the Cowboys. They wouldn't budge. He wanted to be a $50 million a year quarterback. The Cowboys did not see him that way. Now that he's right now the leading passer, he has over 1,800 passing yards in the NFL. The next closest guy is Josh Allen, which is almost 300 yards away. And I'm gonna give this first to Avery because I know, being a former player himself, what athletes go through. What is the future for Dak Prescott going forward? Is he going to be a Cowboy or is he going somewhere else?
I believe that the answer to that question is it's up to Dak Prescott. It's no longer up to the Dallas Cowboys. At this point, they can offer him the max deal, and he can say, "I don't want to play for you because you guys didn't want to lock me up when I wanted to get locked up." So I think it really is up to him at this point. And if he decides to leave, absolutely nobody can fault him. I do believe that he will remain a Dallas Cowboy. I do believe he will get some type of deal done. I believe that he will sign and continue to carry that franchise. He loves that franchise. He loves that city. He loves his teammates, and I don't think he would leave his teammates. Unless, like I said, unless there's an issue, contractually that they just can't, figure something out. I think he'll be back. Our prayers go out to him. It's tough to come back from injuries like that. But the good thing is they're saying that he's going to come back at full strength. I was actually talking to a friend of mine who's a Cowboys fan. I said the best case scenario with an injury like that, please let it be a clean break, because if it's a clean break, it's like the recovery time is less, and there's a higher percentage of you fully recovering. And that's what it seems to have been. It seems to have been a clean break plus a dislocation. And so, get that thing taken care of. And I'm appreciative that they didn't wait. They got the surgery done that day. So, it expedites his recovery time and different things like that. People forget, he's also young. He's not even 30 years old yet.
27.
So I think he has a lot more to prove. We've seen it this year. He's progressing, man. He just keeps getting better and better and better. And so, as long as his rehab goes well, as long as he doesn't have any setbacks, I fully believe Dak will bounce back and continue to be the Dak that we've seen.
This is a very emotional story. A lot can be taken away from the personal side of it. But remember, football is a business. It is a transactional business, especially a what have you done for me lately business. And the fact of the matter is Prescott was playing on the franchise tag, which some people have said is an abysmal deal for players in the NFL. And I want to throw that actually to Darius. Darius, should the franchise tag be eliminated from dealings? Is it fair to players to have to play under a 1-year deal despite the guaranteed money that comes with it?
We could look at the franchise tag as a good thing or a bad thing. I think with Dak's situation, he was on pace for throw over 6,000 yards. Dak was actually going out there and playing well, and I think that's credit to obviously Mike McCarthy and Kellen Moore off of the coaches, his coaching staff. He was going out there and playing, and most of the time they were playing from behind because of their defense. So I think it really just depends on the situation. I think in Dak's situation, it's sad. Obviously, he wants to be in Dallas. To Avery's point, he loves the city. I think everybody can see that he wants to be in Dallas. Like Dallas was, they were negotiating a deal. I think he was like a 4-year, $100 million deal, but he wanted, obviously, it's more for him. I think it was more about the guaranteed money. I want to have more guaranteed money. So I think in his situation, it's 50-50. I think when you're in that situation, coming off an injury, it's like, with Jerry Jones saying that Dak is our guy, he's going to be a forever Cowboy. Obviously, that's what you want as the media. You want to say that, you want to get the fans, happy and different things like that. But deep down, Dak is just he had one of those years where if he didn't get hurt and Dallas somehow and he played the way he did, it would be a good thing that he played on a franchise tag, right? Because he was on pace to throw 6,000 yards, and Dallas somehow wins the division. He can just get them to let's say the divisional round, you have to give him $100 million. You have to give him what he wants because of what he's done and what that defense has been giving up. You know what I mean? But I think that the NFL has to look at it like this, man. Like, they're going to keep the franchise tag. They're going to keep the franchise tag, and players are going to have to. That's kind of one of those deals where it's like you're going to prove yourself, and then if we feel like you're worth it, then we'll give you a long-term deal after you play on the franchise tag, or we'll give you another franchise tag. So I definitely think the NFL is going to keep it. I don't see the NFL pulling it away, and it's a sad situation for Dak, man. He was having a great year. Obviously, like you said, he was a top 5 quarterback before the injury. You know what I mean? Like he was playing out of his mind. He was helping my fantasy team win. So, but
let's not visit that right now.
Yeah.
I want to throw the final question over to Darren before we move on to our final segment. Darren, really quickly, if you can answer it. Let's say Prescott's not a Cowboy. He doesn't want to be there. He thinks he feels mistreated by the Jones family. And as much as he loves Dallas, you can't stay in an organization where you don't feel valued. What are the possible landing spots for Dak Prescott next year?
So I got 2 really quickly that I would really like to see him possibly go to, and then I got 2 that he might go to out of kind of need for what they want, what they might need. The 2 that he might go to out of need for the team, Washington easily would definitely be one, and possibly the Broncos, depending on how Drew Lock plays out with the injuries. This is the second year where he's been injured now, so I'm not sure how they feel about that with the Broncos, but that's something to look at later on. The 2 I really like him going to, I don't believe he'll go, but I really would like to see it, the Colts or the 49ers. Now, both teams have pretty solid, good offensive line. The defenses are very solid for both teams, and he has enough weapons on both teams that are young that he can actually do things with. And not only that, but both of them have a system where they're more oriented to the run, in which he had his best years under when he had Ezekiel Elliott rushing for the league lead. So those 2 teams to me really stick out as really great spots for him to land. And they're both possibly in transition, with the Colts having Phillip Rivers, depending on how they see the guy they drafted this year, that might can just step in and take over once Phillip Rivers leaves. Or if the 49ers stop believing in Jimmy G after that abysmal performance he did, trade him and coming with Dak. That's definitely a likely possibility. This is a business now, people.
And,
so you gotta understand.
We talk about franchise quarterbacks getting, traded all day long in these kind of situations, and I actually have a hot take on that coming in just a bit, which will lead us to our final topic of the day, which are game picks for Week 6 and hot takes to go with them. And Avery, you've been such a good commentator so far, such a good patient man here. I'm going to give you the first shot at your favorite game and your hot take.
All right. First, I just do want to just shout out to Alex Smith for coming back, man. I think that is, without question, the NFL story of the year. I don't care if he plays another snap. I think he should get comeback player of the year without question. I love the fact that Alex Smith was able to get out and get some snaps. And also got sacked 4 or 5 times and was able to withstand those sacks. I mean, even with, Aaron Donald literally jumping on his back. So it to me, it shows that his leg is reinforced. It's got a strength and everything like that. So that's a good thing. My game of the week is tough. There's so many games. You got the Cardinals and the Cowboys. You got the Chiefs and the Bills. You got the Rams and 49ers. Obviously, Packers and Bucks. I think that's going to be a shootout because I think Tom Brady is going to have a field day with that Packers defense. And then Aaron Rodgers is playing out of his mind right now. But I think the game that I'm looking forward to watch, another one that could be something, let's say Le'Veon signs with Miami and, Jets, Dolphins. That would be crazy. But the game I'm looking forward to the most is Browns Steelers. I feel like this is the game that the Browns are going to have to show, are you for real, or have these been some flukish games? You're going against an undefeated division rival right now who, I mean, they're really clicking right now, and they're doing it in so many different ways. The running game is pretty shaky, but it's enough to get it done. But you've got Juju who's playing well. You got Claypool who's playing well. Big Ben who's doing his thing. Their defense is obviously not what it was last year, but they're not outside of the top 15. I still think that they're a top 10 defense. Watt is ridiculous. So you gotta win that game to prove that you are legit in this division. So I'm really interested to see how that's going to go. I think again you got two great pass rushers and T.J. Watt and Myles Garrett, both I think can win Defensive Player of the Year this year. T.J. Ward is just like I said, he's playing out of his mind right now. I mean, I'm loving the defensive play from him. Hayden is still doing Hayden things. You know, he's not the Hayden of old, but he's still doing Hayden things. I'm just, you know, I would love to see. I think Pittsburgh is still they're one of those three teams I named as far as getting turnovers. Top three is getting turnovers in the league, so it should be interesting to see. I would love to see how that game turns out, and I'm curious to see how it's going to be. My hot take: I don't want this to happen. I'm telling you now, I do not want this to happen. But my hot take: the Atlanta Falcons release Matt Ryan at the end of the season. Dak Prescott ends up the quarterback for the Atlanta Falcons in 2021. I don't want to see it. I love Matt Ryan. That's my guy.
Just commented that Drew Brees would retire and then Dak would go to the Saints, but you're saying he would go to the Falcons instead and Matt Ryan would be released?
Yes, I don't want to see it happen because, again, Matt Ryan is my guy. I want him to retire a Falcon. I don't think he's the problem. But because you're bringing in a new coaching system, coaching staff potentially, if they don't want to move forward with Matt Ryan, he could potentially get cut. And because of the fact that he has he's a pretty heavy cap hit. So unless a team is in love with Matt Ryan, you might not be able to get a trade for him. So I think it's a potential that he could get released. That Prescott can come in. He's a young guy. You know, it's still, like I say, he's not 30 yet. He's looked like he's on a progressive tip, and then you bring in a offensive minded, coach, somebody like the offensive coordinator from the Buffalo Bills, or you bring in my guy, a defensive guy, Todd Bowles. You bring in Louis Riddick as the GM or something like that. I mean, it could be a match made in heaven. And excuse me, it's not T.J. Ward, it's Denzel Ward.
I'm not sure if Louis Riddick as a GM would be 100% a good thing, but we'll move on with that. And I'm gonna I
just love Louis. That's my guy.
You know what? I'll give you credit for that, man. But I would rather see Daniel Jeremiah as a GM than Louis Riddick any day. So I'm going to throw it over now to Darius with his game and hot take. Go for it, Darius.
Avery, you stole my game, man. I was definitely going with Pittsburgh and Cleveland just because. Are we not remembering Myles Garrett, his first game back against Pittsburgh? How is that going to go?
Is that in Pittsburgh, right? Or in Cleveland?
I believe it's in Pittsburgh.
And Pittsburgh,
with no fans.
Are we not forgetting? And plus, Avery, again, Cleveland. This is the game where we're gonna know if Cleveland's for real. They beat Indianapolis, which is I think a huge win because Indianapolis defense is very good. Obviously, they have Phillip Rivers, who's still turning the ball over, but it's still Indianapolis. But can Cleveland actually go into Pittsburgh and get that win? If they get that win, I think Cleveland arguably can actually they have a chance to win the division if they somehow can go in there and defeat. Another game too, we got to also understand Houston against Tennessee. Houston got their first win under interim coach Romeo Crennel. Can they keep the momentum going against Tennessee, a team that didn't practice for 16 days and somehow beat a Buffalo team that arguably said going to win the AFC East with Josh Allen being the best quarterback in that division, right? I mean, come on, that's another game. And then one more game I'm looking at, Dallas against Arizona. How is Dallas going to play their first
Sunday Night Football, right?
I'm sorry, what you said?
That's Sunday Night Football?
That's Monday.
Monday Night Football,
Dallas now has to play for Dak, right? Because your quarterback is down. Obviously, this is where you get that momentum. We got to play for Dak. We're doing this for Dak Prescott. Andy Dalton, who arguably I think was a great signing. Now you're going to see why he was a great signing. Now I think what Dallas is going to
great signing.
They're going to go back to the ground and pound game. This is and Andy Dalton, I think, is the best backup quarterback in that position.
I don't know.
Be the Zeke show.
I don't know if they go to ground and pound.
They don't. Mike McCarthy don't like to really run the ball.
And he knows how to spread the ball around. And he has
guys, we can debate this game all night if we want to, but I really want to get to Darius's hot take. Like
I don't have an hot take this week.
You don't have a hot take?
I just have a couple of games that I was looking forward to, man. That was it. I don't have a hot take. I got you next week.
I'll make the fact that you think that they're not gonna air it out with Dalton your hot take, because like honestly it is kind of ridiculous to say that. I get that Zeke Elliott is one of the top premier backs in the game. He can knock defense on its butt and still keep going while dragging the other guy in another ankle. But he's also one heck of a pass catcher. And if you're not using Zeke Elliott to his best ability in the passing game, you are not using him correctly. And Andy Dalton has the name Red Rifle for a reason. So I'll give you that hot take because I feel like that's what you have. I'll give you that hot take that you think they're going to run it more, and we'll just leave it at that. And then with that being said, I'm throwing it up to Darren. So Darren, like your game of the week and your hot take.
All right, so I'm looking at realistically 3 games, and 2 of them was already kind of mentioned. But the one that I have to see, just because of who I am, Baltimore versus the Eagles, man. It's a great game. Great game. But
no, it's not. No, it's not.
So realistically, my real games were Pittsburgh versus Cleveland, because I wanted to see how that was going to play out, especially with the Ravens in that division. You got 3 teams that's really, really doing well right now this year. And if that continues on, can we see 3 AFC North teams into the playoffs again?
We saw 3 AFC West teams in 2017. Anything possible.
Listen, I'm telling you, this is one of the best divisions right now. And then on top of that, for me, my game of the week got to be Green Bay versus Tampa Bay. I don't understand how that's not. You got 2 GOATs basically going off on each other. And
Darren,
the defenses are both playing pretty solid.
Darren, can I join you on that? Because that's also my game too. So you can take the Green Bay side. I'll take the Bucs side. How's that?
I got you. So Aaron Rodgers, as we already said, is a bad man. And even though the Tampa Bay defense is playing pretty well, I still got Aaron Rodgers for carving them up something vicious. And so going into my hot takes, both quarterbacks end up in the shootout.
Breaking news. We have it. Le'Veon Bell officially signs with the Kansas City Chiefs on a 1-year deal. Oh my goodness. Oh gosh. No. I know we only got 2 minutes left.
No.
We gotta extend this.
We
might have to. But like, how about this? Darren, finish your Green Bay take. We're gonna touch the Le'Veon Bell signing in just a bit. So go with your Green Bay, man.
I'm not ready for that. My hot take. Oh man, this is hot enough right here. But my hot take: Green Bay versus Tampa Bay, bigger shootout than it was for Green Bay versus the Saints. 90 points scored between the 2 teams. Both quarterbacks over 400 yards and 4 touchdowns. And the best part for me, Brady throws the pick 6 to Jair Alexander.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. Now, you make a good argument for the Packers. Like, let me just run down the Packers real quick. They're averaging 38 points a game, 0 turnovers, neither a fumble nor an interception. Aaron Rodgers' balls, and I mean that the footballs, have been completely accurate with regards to interceptability. All right. Aaron Rodgers has not thrown a possible picked off pass in the entire year so far. We've seen Patrick Mahomes almost get picked off twice against the Patriots, and Aaron Rodgers hasn't even done it once. And over on the Buccaneers side, it's not that great of a story. The Buccaneers have against the Bears 11 penalties for 109 yards. That's an undisciplined team. You saw how Tom Brady was reacting on the sideline with all the penalties coming his way. It's a bad trend, and I get how aggressive Bruce Arians can be with his Bucs offensive calling and the play style that he invokes, but it can be a little detrimental. On the bright side, though, Ronald Jones is a developing number 1 back down in Tampa Bay. 2 back-to-back 100 yard performances for the Chiefs against the Chargers and against the Bears. Chris Godwin coming back into the lineup. It'll be the first time that Godwin and Evans are going to be in the same lineup this year. That's a dangerous one right there. Tom Brady to Mike Evans is tied for the number 1 receiver to quarterback duo in the NFL. With 6 touchdowns so far. Now, I'll grant you, Evans has not been as explosive. He's had 2 100-yard receiving games, but then there's also 2 games where he's only had 2 receiving yards. He's become much more of a red zone weapon down on the goal line than any tight end could aspire to be. Speaking of, O.J. Howard out for the season, but you still have Gronk. Gronk may have a few years and a few miles on him, but he is still a viable weapon for the Bucs. And let's go to the Buccaneers secondary. You have an emerging rookie with Antoine Winfield, who was the defensive rookie of the month. You have Carlton Davis, who has 3 interceptions on the year so far. Jordan Whitehead, 1 pick so far. Sean Murphy Bunting, one of their better tackling corners in the game. They're a top 5 ranked passing attack. So Aaron Rodgers going up and against an actual secondary. Again, sorry to say that, Avery, going up against an actual secondary will prove to be a challenge. And with that being said, I'm going to give my hot takes now. My first hot take is that I believe this is for long term, not for this week, but long term. Aaron Donald's going to break the sack record. He has 7 sacks so far in the 2020 season. He had 3 against the Washington football team. And honestly, it's about time that Michael Strahan's record gets wiped from the record books, because the way he got his 22nd sack was abysmal against Brett Favre, which was just it was a gimme. All right, and you don't want to earn a sack record based on a gimme. Even Strahan wants someone else to break it. And my second hot take is one that I asked with my Syracuse friends, who I adore very much. I miss them both. I miss them all very much. Is that Ryan Tannehill is a top 5 quarterback in the NFL? And let me give why. Ryan Tannehill has been one of the more effective quarterbacks in the NFL so far. Okay, the stats aren't necessarily there. He's 24th in passing yards, which by 1,004. However, his touchdown interception ratio is 9-1. We saw how he was able to not only play with his arms and take risks downfield, but also use his legs in a smart way and get into the end zone. He did the LT flip when he went into the end zone against the Bills. You don't get more baller than that. And the fact that he's completed 69% of his passes so far, he's elevated the Titans team with the same weapons than Marcus Mariota ever could. All right. And if that doesn't tell you that that's a freaking top 5 quarterback manning there, I don't know what will.
Okay, Juan.
Okay,
Juan.
I think that Aaron Donald is not too hot, though. Aaron Donald could have been broke, I feel like.
That's fair. That's fair. And guys, now we're gonna throw it over to the breaking news that we just discussed from ESPN. Le'Veon Bell joining the Kansas City Chiefs. The Kansas City Chiefs, who have Patrick Mahomes, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Mecole Hardman, Travis Kelce, Tyreek Hill, not to mention who the backups are. It is pure insanity. I got to get reactions, and I got to get reactions now. I'm going to throw it over to Big Trust first, because he looks like he's about to have a panic attack.
It's just not fair, yo. It's not fair. I don't understand it. Like, why? What is the point? There is no need for him. Clyde is killing it right now. And the receivers they had are ridiculous. But the fact you give Patrick Mahomes, Le'Veon Bell, I had another hot take, y'all. My hot take was KC loses 2 straight to the Bills with them losing by 2 scores. But I don't know if I can even say that anymore. I honestly do not know if they might lose a game at this point. There's no reason other than that defense giving up 40 points a game that the Chiefs can't win every game the rest of this year. Point blank period. The Chiefs can go undefeated. I'm saying it now. And you know what? I'm not even going to say they can. The Chiefs will go undefeated this year with Le'Veon Bell as the second running back in that backfield.
I mean, they lost against the Raiders. They can't be undefeated anymore.
Sorry. They will go undefeated the rest of the season. The rest of the season, they will go undefeated. They will have 15-1 record. There is no reason for them to lose another game.
Now this is just an expected report. Adam Schefter tweeted that that it's expected that Le'Veon Bell is going to sign with the Kansas City Chiefs. Nothing officially confirmed, but when Schefter tweets something like this, it's all but confirmed. So I want to give it over to now Avery. Dude, like, man, we were talking about in the chat how crazy it is that the Jets were bleeding talent, and now the Chiefs are taking that blood transfusion and just injecting it into their veins, man. How much more talented are the Chiefs now with Le'Veon Bell? Does that take touches away from Clyde Edwards-Helaire?
So real quick, according to the report, he just has to pass COVID protocols. He has to go through 5 days of COVID protocols, and so then he can join the team. So it seems like it's all but confirmed. So with that being said, of course, it's going to take away touches from Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I think it's going to take away from touches early on, but I don't think it's going to be something that, because Le'Veon's the older back, and obviously you want to, one, preserve Clyde, but you also want to make sure that Le'Veon knows this is our guy moving forward. We spent the first round draft pick on him, and he's playing well. So I think I love the fact that they're obviously going to have a two-back system now. They're going to be, it's going to be really, really, really hard to, get a key on who's getting the ball in this offense now, because it's like this is just me. If I'm the Kansas City Chiefs, Le'Veon Bell doesn't come off the field. He's that good of a receiver that you can just keep lining him up in the slot if you don't want him in the backfield. So it's just like you can have Sammy Watkins, you have Tyreek Hill, Nicole Hardman, you can have Travis Kelce, Le'Veon Bell, and then in the backfield, you've got Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Or switching Le'Veon Bell and like that to me. And then it's like, who do you key in on to guard offensively? I think there's only maybe 3 teams that can really stack up against those guys, and 1 being the Ravens, 2 being the Buffalo Bills, 3 potentially being the Tennessee Titans. And I'm talking about from a defensive, where it's just like you have people who can guard these guys. Doesn't mean they're going to guard them for the whole game, but they can guard these guys. But I just don't see how you do it for a full 60 minutes. It's going to be really scary to see that offense work. I don't think Le'Veon will have an immediate impact. I think it'll take 2 to 3 games for him to really get settled in and everything like that. But once they start clicking, it's going to be pretty scary to see. I mean, they're looking like the Golden State Chiefs right now. That's what they look like. I mean, it's just
the Ravens aren't stopping them.
Oh my God. I kind of have the final question to Darius, and it's actually an interesting one. So for people that don't follow us on our YouTube channel, which go follow us on YouTube, we release a weekly series called Throwback Thursday, where we take a look back at players we've interviewed in the past and catch our fans on where they are now. And in this week's episode, we released it on Chiefs running back Darwin Thompson, who joined the Chiefs back in 2019 and won a Super Bowl with them. Now that Le'Veon Bell's in the rotation, it's now Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Darwin Thompson, Le'Veon Bell, Damian Williams, who had to opt out of the season because of COVID-19. That's a 4 running back group going forward. So Darius, I have to ask, out of those 4, who's the odd man out?
It's difficult because Damian Williams, obviously, he opted out, right? So I think he's kind of like the obvious one. Le'Veon Bell going to the Chiefs, man. Back to Darren's point, it's not fair. They're playing franchise mode. They got the salary cap off. They're just cheating. At this point, the NFL shouldn't even allow this to happen. You cannot give a guy like Patrick Mahomes.
It's like the Chris Paul,
right? You had a 2-headed Kansas City has a running back committee that they could really that they can go to. And as a defensive coordinator, how do you plan against that? How do you really set up a game plan against those 3 guys? Right? Because each of those 3 guys, really, you can plug them in and they can somehow, they really can produce some way. So obviously, I'm gonna go with Dan Williams just because of COVID. But I think even if Le'Veon Bell takes a little bit slow to get the offense, obviously it's a new offense, it's a new system. And then you like Avery said, Clyde Helaire, he's the guy. That's the future, right? You spend a 1st-round pick on a guy, so he's the guy going forward. But when Le'Veon Bell actually does get it going, they have I personally think they have a 2-headed monster. And then if, God forbid, if one of those guys go down, he could come in and actually help Kansas City. It's just not fair, man. They don't need Le'Veon. Like, what was this? Andy Reid didn't need it. It's like they lost to Oakland. It was like, all right, you know what? We're gonna go get somebody, and it's gonna be Le'Veon Bell.
Kansas City's now on a spectrum when it comes to all-star teams. They are either the 2019 Cleveland Browns or the 2020 Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Success and moderating touches, or just have no idea what you're going to do with so many weapons. It will be interesting to see how Andy Reid handles this. I personally have to agree with Darren and that they're going to go, off going forward. I don't think they'll be undefeated because there are still teams out there that can put up a fight, and all it takes is one bad game.
New England.
Just look at the Raiders. Look what the Raiders did to Patrick Mahomes and kept him in check. Like that's all you need. All you need is one bad day from Patrick Mahomes. I'm sorry, Darius, you're saying something I can't understand.
I'm saying, and the Patriots, we would have won that game. Cam Newton played, we win the game. You cannot convince me otherwise. Patrick Mahomes threw an interception and the refs blew it. Like, come on. That's a momentum changer.
I hear you.
That's a momentum changer.
I hear you, but look, but Darius coulda, woulda, shoulda, but didn't. So that's just how it works, man. And I could say the same thing for the Le'Veon Bell situation with the New York Jets. It could have worked. It should have worked. It would have worked, but it didn't because of bad coaching, bad scheming, bad organizational development. Overall, stuff just happens, and we have to accept it for what it is. And I'm an 0-5 team. Avery has an 0-5 team. We got a 4-1 team over here, and we got a 2-2 team down there. So we all accept our fates as they are. And with that being said, we're going to wrap up today's podcast. Just to reiterate the breaking news, former New York Jets running back Le'Veon Bell is expected to sign with the Kansas City Chiefs. And, before we go, I'm just going to give a quick shout out to our man, Jerome Jones, with the graphic work and with the title work. That's how you know you are on fire, Jerome. We love you. We appreciate you. And we don't know what we do without you, man. And with all that being said, I'm just going to say thank you guys for watching the Aired Out Podcast. And for all of our podcasts and all your audio needs, you can check us out on Spotify, on Apple Podcasts, on Anchor, anywhere where you listen to audio interviews and podcasts. Inside the Hashes is there. You can also find us on our Discord. We want to hear from you. We want to talk with you. We want to talk trash with you. We want to be humiliated just as much as we want to humiliate you. So come over and talk to us, man, on Discord. Just find us, Inside the Hashes LLC. You can also find us on social media. On Instagram, we are at Inside the Hashes. On Twitter, we are at Inside Hashes. On Facebook, we are Inside the Hashes, the football group. You can also go to our website, www.insidethehashes.com, for all our video, audio, and blogs that you can tune into, as well as our player profiles and player interviews, as well as our YouTube channel, which has a lot of our great content. Throwback Thursdays, our King of the Turf Madden videos, video player interviews, and other fantasy and other podcasts that you can listen to. The Fantasy Aces podcast, the RPO podcast, and this podcast right here, the Air It Out podcast. Guys, before we wrap up, anything you'd like to add?
Not fair. Not fair. The Ravens, if the Ravens got blown out last time, there is no way possible for them to cover as many weapons as they have.
I just want to end with this. I can't believe we have the same record as the New York Jets. No offense, Juan, but I just can't.
You also have the same as the New York Giants, so take that with the grain of salt that you can. And with that being said, for Big Trust, Mr. Darren Braxton, for Darius Riddick, for Avery Collins, for Jerome Jones, for Christopher Thomas with his fire comments. My name is Juan Pablo Guardian Camargo. This has been the Air It Out Podcast presented by Inside the Hashes. We'll see you next time.